you asked a question that was also similar to Lawrence's question, and is around that, like kind of you set a goal, you're on your journey, you probably start with a lot of motivation, and as you get closer to it, you're probably quite motivated. But in the middle, you can feel less motivated. Lawrence talked about his motivational swings that he sort of says happens throughout the day, as he feels slightly more motivated than others, as he reads different emails. Mark, you talked about some work that you'd read from Ailip Fishback, is it? About the strongest motivation at the start and weakest at the middle, and talking about middle actions. So the question is, do you have any practical advice or suggestions of navigating those motivational dips, that middle period?
I'll give you a couple of scenarios that have worked for me.
Only if they last 2 minutes, because we've got about 8 more questions, but only 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not short-winded. I'm long-winded. The first thing is to recognize that in advance. Okay.
Well, you gave me an hour, to be fair.
Yeah. So so we can go over a minute if we need to, because we started a few minutes.
I might with you, if that's okay, if you've got the time, because I want to make sure that I've answered these questions. But guys, if you need to jump off, then yeah.
So you recognize in advance that I'm likely to have a dip. Okay. And so you plan accordingly. You decide what you're going to do. I like milestones. If you're looking at a big project, I like milestones that we celebrate along the way. We got to take time to celebrate. I also like streaks. Just keep the streak going, but determine in advance what keeps the streak going. So like if you're like, today was my 49th day in a row to have a workout, right? So I'm on a streak. But I'm also applying persistent consistency. So every workout I've done for 49 days in a row has been a little bit more than the last one. And so, but that's hard to do. And so every day, so my overall goal is to stay healthy, right? But the streak is like every day is a new goal. And so that's one way that I mitigate the dip. By making each day's action in and of itself a victory or a win, because I have to think about what am I going to do different. And I try to do things that don't add time, right? Because if I went on this for the rest of my life, I'd be working out 24 hours a day, and that's not going to happen. I got 45 minutes, right? So that's one thing that I do to mitigate the dip. In advance, and you plan how you're going to act in the dip. The other thing that I see a lot in this is people will set a big goal, like running a half marathon. And the goal is really their vehicle to help them lose 25 pounds. Well, then they run the marathon, and then 3 months later, they've gained 30 pounds, right? And so we need to have that next goal already in place that's going to keep us on this journey. And so instead of life being a big event, and then now what, our life is a series of learning and growing, and we're at a higher level in our life. And so we just change it. We just go right into a new goal.
Yeah. So breaking it down, like, that's always a key thing, isn't it? To milestones along the journey. And then making sure you're really clear what the real goal is. Maybe not the surface one, but actually what's the real goal and motivation. Losing weight or marathon or whatever. Yeah. Steve B, that probably talks to you, doesn't it, in terms of your clients and talking to them about what their goal is. Steve coaches people as well with running.
At the start of this call, we were talking about Houston and the temperatures in Houston. I'm training a guy who lives in Houston right now. He's having to go out at 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, just to avoid the temperature, but it's still 80-85% humidity. So he's finding it really tough to get through his training plan.
But then is it not then about adjusting expectations according to the environment? Is there a thing there around managing
the way we're handling it is there's normally a target range, and it's normally quite narrow. But for the hotter or more humid days, we've lowered the bottom of the range, and he runs to the bottom of the range rather than the top. So he at least completes the workout, the intervals, the durations, whatever, but he's just running it at a lower intensity.